Welcome to Ancient Hominid Timeline, where we travel back in time to uncover the stories written in the bones of our ancestors, in the windswept savannas of prehistory, and in the silent mechanisms that shaped our very existence. 4 million years ago, the earth was wild, raw, and unpredictable. The air was thick with the sounds of creatures long extinct, and the landscape was a patchwork of woodlands, rivers, and spreading savannas. In this primeval world, the seeds of something extraordinary were quietly taking root. A slow transformation was underway, not in the crashing of tectonic plates or the eruption of volcanoes, but in the subtle reshaping of life itself. This was not the age of modern humans, yet the foundation of who we would become was already being laid. Welcome to life 4 million years ago, a turning point in the mechanism of human formation. Among these species were the early hominins, struggling to navigate this transitional world. They lived between the trees and the grasslands, in areas where forest met field, where fruit-bearing trees were still within reach, but becoming scarcer with each generation. Fossil sites like those in Ethiopia's Awash Valley and Kenya's Turkana Basin reveal evidence of creatures walking upright through these mixed habitats. The presence of both tree-climbing adaptations and bipedal traits in their bones shows how they were physically caught between two worlds. In response to unpredictable food sources and rising threats from predators, these ancient ancestors were being quietly shaped by the land itself. Among the remarkable outcomes of early evolutionary shifts was the rise of Australopithecus, a genus that represents one of the most critical links in our ancestral chain. Emerging around 4 million years ago, these hominins were small in stature, with adults averaging just over 1 meter tall, yet they stood upright and walked on 2 feet. Their brains were still relatively small, only about a third the size of modern humans, but their posture, skeletal structure, and survival behaviors marked a profound departure from the apes they descended from. These adaptations reveal a creature fully immersed in the evolutionary tug-of-war between the old and the new Australopithecus afarensis. The most well-known species in this genus occupied both habitats, feeding on a wide variety of plant materials. Their teeth, shaped for grinding and chewing tough vegetation, give us a glimpse into their diet and how they managed to survive in unstable climates where resources were scattered and competition was high. Fossil footprints discovered in Laetoli, Tanzania, provide one of the earliest and most vivid examples of bipedal movement. Preserved in volcanic ash and dated to approximately 3.6 million years ago, these tracks show the stride of 2 early hominins walking side by side, possibly even holding hands. The depth and alignment of their feet indicate not only an upright posture, but a level of balance and coordination nearly indistinguishable from our own. These footsteps represent more than locomotion. They capture the beginning of exploration, of migration, and of the ability to face the unknown upright and unafraid. The diets of early hominins around 4 million years ago were shaped not by preference, but by necessity and opportunity. As forests gave way to open grasslands, their food landscape shifted dramatically. Where once fruits and soft vegetation were abundant, now they had to explore tougher, more fibrous foods. Roots buried in dry soil, seeds with protective shells, and even scavenged meat left behind by predators. This dietary pressure left visible marks in the fossil record. Teeth grew flatter and thicker, jaws more robust, capable of processing harder materials. The structure of the skull began to change, especially around the jaw and cheekbones, allowing for stronger chewing muscles to attach. As early hominins adapted to new ways of living, their survival increasingly depended not just on individual instincts, but on cooperation and social connection. Life on the ground exposed them to new dangers. These small communities likely formed loose social structures where individuals took on different roles, from foraging and watching for threats to caring for the young. Fossil evidence of shared spaces, such as clustered remains and stone tools found in the same layers, suggest that early hominins returned repeatedly to familiar locations, possibly functioning as temporary camps or gathering spots. Within these spaces, behaviors emerged that hinted at the beginning of culture. The act of grooming, seen in modern primates, likely played a role in early bonding. while vocalizations, body language, and facial expressions began to carry more complex meanings. Over time, these interactions would have laid the groundwork for emotional memory. Even simple acts like an adult sharing food with a juvenile or multiple members collectively defending their group from danger suggest the presence of empathy and a rudimentary understanding of trust and loyalty that would grow deeper over time. As early hominins evolved alongside environmental pressures, their mobility became more than a physical trait. It began to influence the development of their intelligence. Navigating across vast, unfamiliar landscapes required more than endurance. It demanded memory, spatial awareness, decision-making, and the capacity to predict outcomes. The brain, once focused primarily on immediate survival, began adapting to these new challenges by forming more intricate neural pathways. This shift is reflected in the gradual increase in cranial capacity found in fossil records, showing a slow but steady rise in brain size over millions of years. These changes weren't random. They were a response to the demands of a mobile lifestyle that involved locating distant food sources, returning to safe shelter, avoiding predators, and recognizing landmarks. Tool use also played a significant role in this transformation. Even the simplest tools, a sharpened stone or a broken bone used to extract marrow, represented problem-solving, foresight, and planning. Such innovation not only required dexterity, but also learning and teaching, reinforcing the need for communication and knowledge transfer across generations and solidifying social bonds that supported growing communities. Though millions of years separate us from our earliest ancestors, echoes of their journey still live within us. The courage it took for them to stand upright, to leave the safety of trees, and to walk into the uncertainty of open land is the same courage that drives humans today to explore, innovate, and persevere. Every step they took, every adaptation they made, was a step toward us, toward the laughter of families, the warmth of friendship, and the spark of imagination that has built cities, stories, and dreams. Their struggles, etched into ancient bones and silent stone tools, whisper of resilience, of small victories that paved the way for language, for art, for love, and for legacy. Consider the rhythmic pulse of a heartbeat during a long walk, the tightening grip of a hand holding another for balance, both timeless gestures that connect us to those who once walked barefoot across African plains. Their fingerprints are in our DNA, not only in our biology, but in our emotions, our ambitions, and our need to connect. Every time we gather around a fire, share a meal, or teach a child, we're unknowingly continuing rituals they began long before the first word was spoken or the first village was formed. So much of what we are today began with these ancient steps beside watering holes and across the scorched savannas of prehistoric Africa. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the ancient origins of humanity, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Ancient Hominid Timeline. Your support helps keep this journey alive.